Well, that's 12 o'clock, so I think we might get started. Hello, everybody. A very big welcome to our virtual COP29 Indo-Pacific Water Day. I'm Sarah Ransom. I'm the General Manager of the Australian Water Partnership, and it's such a pleasure to be organising this day, which is part of the official COP29 Water for Climate Pavilion program in partnership with Stockholm International Water Institute. I'd like to acknowledge that I'm joining today's sessions from Ngunnawal country in Canberra, and I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to all First Nations joining us online today. And I'd also like to acknowledge and thank our co-hosts for today's event, Monash University and Alluvium. Please now welcome Ms. Erica Ward from DFAT, who's going to give us a short opening presentation. Erica is the Director of Climate Integration and Programming at the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. She's worked for the Australian Government in foreign policy, international development and multilateral negotiations roles since 2006. And she has worked across the region in Southeast Asia, Africa and the Pacific, designing and implementing development programs. Over to you, Erica.
Thanks, Sarah, and thanks to you and the rest of the AWP team and our co-hosts for inviting me to provide some opening remarks today. Today we'll hear some powerful stories about the links between climate change and water, and it's especially powerful to have them linked to the official COP29 program this year, because access to fora like this becomes very important for communities and government to learn more about managing their water in the face of climate change, but also for negotiators and policymakers to listen and be aware of stories and the lived, diverse experiences of communities. This COP is an important one for water in key negotiations such as finance and adaptation. I know that the water community has been working hard to ensure that water is visible in financing mechanisms such as the new collective quantified goal. It's also important that we continue to recognise water's critical role in adaptation and mitigation as states draft new nationally determined contributions and national adaptation plans for the years ahead. Knowledge and science about the interdependence of water and climate, while well established, is a field of continuous and critical improvement as water security issues intensify around the world. Australia's international development policy, released in August last year, recognises climate change as the greatest shared threat to all countries. Moreover, climate change and water are key interdependent development, foreign policy and security issues for Australia and our partners in the Indo-Pacific. Australia's development program responds to the accelerating climate crisis by increasing our climate investments and better addressing climate risks. We've committed to include a climate objective in 50% of new investments across all sectors, valued at $3 million Australian dollars and above from 1 July this year, increasing to 80% by 30 June 2029. And we're taking care to ensure that our bilateral programs align with partners' nationally determined contributions and national adaptation plans. So in that context, Australia is investing in climate resilient water resource management and WASH programs to assist our Indo-Pacific government partners build more resilient systems to support water security from the rapidly growing threat of climate change. Our water and sanitation programs will be informed by climate data and risks, and where possible be 100% climate finance. Through our development program, we harness Australian expertise and work in partnership with governments and communities to achieve greater water security and better access to WASH services. We do this through programs like the Water for Women Fund and the Australian Water Partnership. The Water for Women Fund is in its final phase and has been capturing lessons and learning in climate resilient WASH from around the region. Initial and meaningful examples from civil society projects are emerging on how to influence and integrate climate risk management into WASH governance, and such practice is proving time and cost effective. For example, Plan Papua New Guinea has influenced the addition of climate resilient WASH pathways in government district WASH improvement plans. And SNV Bhutan, through its long-standing relationship with government and high-quality WASH technical support, has accelerated uptake of the climate resilience lens in decision-making, the use of which is naturally rippling out to other services over time and with increased confidence in the approach. Similarly, the Australian Water Partnership supports partner governments to enhance climate resilient water resource management in the Indo-Pacific, including through the successful development and adoption of policies, practices, and tools in countries like Vietnam and Laos, and with partners like the Pacific Community and Pacific Water and Wastewater Association. As many of you know, AWP is also active in international fora and has proudly supported Indigenous peoples to share valuable traditional knowledge of water resources at many key international events, including past COPs 26, 27, and 28, the 2023 UN Water Conference, the World Water Forum in Indonesia earlier this year, and the Stockholm International Water Week. As we all know, climate change puts huge pressure on water systems, resulting in too little water or too much, or at the wrong time or of low quality. Australia has a lot of experience managing water, including under scarcity. We live on the driest inhabited continent with the most variable stream flow. That knowledge is refined and strengthened through sharing and by working in partnership with others. So I thank the Water for Climate Pavilion and the AWP team and our co-hosts for creating the space for this event today to share critical knowledge and to hear from the variety of speakers and participants present. I hope you all enjoy the program and have a successful COP. Over to you, Sarah.
Thank you, Erica. So today we're really excited to be hearing from a diverse group of speakers representing water, environment and climate issues across 3 regions, the Pacific, Southeast Asia and South Asia. We're delighted that you can join us to shine a spotlight on the interdependency between water and climate across the region. We're going to start with a focus on climate finance, relevant for this COP, for water security in the Pacific, and I'll shortly introduce you to my colleague, Arla Blakelock. Following the Pacific session, we'll join Monash University for a look at urban water resilience in Southeast Asia. And our third session, hosted by Alluvium, will focus on water, communities and climate adaptation in South Asia. And finally, we're really excited to be able to cross to an update from Baku from the Swedish Waterhouse Director, Thomas Rebermark, and another special guest for an update on the proceedings at COP29 in Baku. I'll now pass to the AWP Pacific Coordinator, Arla Blakelock, to commence our first session. Thanks.
Thank you, Sarah. It's a pleasure to be a part of this event for the COP29 Climate for Water Pavilion. Bulavinaka, hello, Algeta, Maori, Talofa, and a very warm Pacific greetings from Suva, Fiji. I'm honored to be your panel moderator for our first session today as a part of a series of presentations for the Indo-Pacific Water and Climate Day, jointly hosted by Australian Water Partnership, Alluvium, and Monash University. For the Pacific session, we're focusing on a very important theme, climate finance for water security from a Pacific perspective, as Sarah has mentioned. As we know, access to climate finance is an ongoing challenge, not only for the Pacific, but for the broader SIDS or small island states that need it most. There is an added complexity when we look at it from a water lens. To be considered for climate financing, the burden lies with countries and communities to prove that water projects are indeed climate related, rather than just another development project. This can often be difficult as data and evidence base needed to support proposal development for water projects are not readily available. It can be quite a costly and time-consuming exercise to undertake. I'm delighted that this afternoon we have the opportunity to hear from a panel of Pacific women experts working at the regional, national, and community level on the work they do and their lived experiences on water security and climate finance in the Pacific. You have an all-women panel before you today. Our male counterparts were also in the running in the lead up to today's session. However, it's your brave Pacific women that have showed up for you today. And I'd like to think that it does relate to the importance that Pacific women place on water security and resilience in our own communities and households. Without further ado, let me introduce our panel speakers for today. Our first speaker, Mr. Tish Malal, is an experienced climate resilience and water management specialist with over 13 years of expertise across the Pacific region. She currently serves as the Program Officer, Climate Resilience, Engagement and Coordination at the Pacific Islands Forum Secretariat, where she supports critical initiatives like the 2050 Strategy for the Blue Pacific Continent and the Climate Finance Access and Mobilization Strategy. Atishma holds a master's of Science in Water Management and Governance from IHE Delft and has supported the development of Fiji's Water Sector Strategy 2050. Her work spans policy formulation, project management, and stakeholder engagement in climate-vulnerable island contexts. Her past projects include the Pacific Community, SPC's Renewable Energy Initiative, and water security programs for the Water Authority of Fiji. Atishma will be speaking today on the topic Urgency of Climate Finance in the Pacific region, covering the various regional strategies and processes in place to address the urgency of climate financing in the Pacific, including on water security. Our second speaker for today is Miss Mary Alalo. Mary grew up facing the hardships of water security as she comes from two of the most vulnerable islands in the Solomon Islands, Ongotogi Java Atoll and Tikopia Islands, prone to climate weather extremes and sea level rise. The hardships and extremities of too little water or water scarcity and too much water, flooding, as we know, inspired her to work in the climate change, disaster, and water security space. Mary combines her first-hand experience of water insecurities and her experience of battling extreme climatic events such as tropical severe cyclones with her technical knowledge and experience as a practitioner to elevate the water security needs of vulnerable communities on different platforms. Mary has 24 years of experience in climate change, adaptation and disaster risk reduction, water security, community-driven development, capacity building, education policy, program management, and microfinance, and has worked with a range of development partners as well as national partners in the Solomon Islands, including an association of women and also with people with disabilities. Mary currently works as the Water Security Engagement Lead with Pacific Community SPC and will be speaking today on the topic of water security and Pacific resilience. Our third speaker would be Ms. Sateta Tamanikaya Roy from Fiji. Sateta leads the Fiji Development Bank climate and eco-finance development and has been instrumental in establishing the bank's climate and eco-finance strategy, policies including mainstreaming of gender equity and social inclusion, as well as environmental and social safeguards. Through her leadership, the bank financed its first new energy vehicle charging station. Sateta has over a decade of experience in development banking, marketing, credit risk, strategic planning, enterprise risk management. She was part of the team that saw the accreditation of the Fiji Development Bank with the Green Climate Fund. Sateta has a keen interest in working with the private sector to incorporate sustainable practices in their operation. In this respect, she is actively involved in collaborating with development partners to create an enabling environment for the private sector. Prior to joining FDB, Sateta worked in the commercial banking sector in Fiji following a short stint with the Customs Department. She holds a master's level certificate from the Pacific Bankers Management Institute, the Pacific Banking School USA, as well as a postgraduate diploma in development studies and the Bachelor of Arts degree from the University of the South Pacific. Sateta will be sharing with us Fiji Development Bank's experiences as a nationally accredited entity to the Green Climate Fund. Our fourth and final speaker for today is Ms. Viola Devesi, Director for the Women Development Division for the Solomon Islands Government. Viola has 14 years of experience in ensuring the implementation, coordination, and monitoring and reporting of Solomon Islands government's international, regional, and national commitments to addressing gender issues. Viola has contributed to mainstreaming gender across different government ministries and sectors, including the establishment of gender focal points in all government ministries and supporting the gender equality and social inclusion aspirations. Viola is a strong advocate for women and men's equal participation and will be speaking today on the topic of access to water and climate financing challenges for the women of Morava Lagoon in the Solomon Islands. Those are our speakers for today. Just a housekeeping issue before we proceed. We will run through all the speakers and have a question and answer session at the end. Please feel free to drop any burning questions that you may have in the chat box as the session proceeds, and we will address them at the end. Without further ado, I invite Atishma of the Pacific Island Forum Secretariat to the platform to speak.
Thank you, Ala. And thanks to Australia Water Partnership for inviting peace on this webinar. Hello, everyone. Greetings from the Pacific Islands Forum. Next slide, please. It is an honor to speak today on behalf of the Pacific Islands Forum and our Blue Pacific continent, where climate change remains the single greatest threat to our livelihoods, security, and well-being. Ensuring that all Pacific people remain resilient to the impacts of climate change and disasters to lead safe, secure, and prosperous lives is one of the key priorities of the 2050 strategy for the Blue Pacific continent. Two key systems outcomes of the climate change and disaster thematic area focuses on the Pacific governments and communities have developed and strengthened capacity for adapting, building resilience, and responding to climate change and disaster risk, particularly for the most vulnerable, and improved access of Pacific governments to available climate and disaster finance in line with their needs, supported by strengthened institutional capacity. Next slide, please. Pacific Regional Climate Finance Initiatives. The significant impact of climate change and predicted rise in greenhouse gas emissions until 2030 will put added stress on Forum Island countries. This places an urgent need on the region to be innovative and develop measures to assist our members in accessing substantial and timely climate finance. Over the past decade, Pacific Island countries have primarily relied on multilateral climate funds as well as bilateral sources. However, accessing these funds has been challenging and time-consuming. New opportunities such as the Loss and Damage Fund established at COP28 and the Regional Pacific Resilience Facility offer significant potential for accessing and mobilizing climate finance. To effectively manage these new funding sources, Pacific Island countries need to adopt innovative approaches, mobilize private sector finance, strengthen public financial management systems, improve climate investment decision-making through informed risk and financial information, prioritize capacity building, and take a regional approach to consolidate efforts. To improve member access to global climate finance platforms, Forum Economic Ministers meeting endorsed the development of a Pacific climate finance access and mobilization strategy in 2022. The Pacific climate finance access and mobilization strategy will have the following strategic focus, and these include capacity building and institutional strengthening, access to climate finance, efficient utilization and management of climate finance, and innovative financing mechanisms. The strategy therefore underscores not only access to climate finance, but also the need to strengthen resilient and sustainable development. The validation workshop of the draft strategy will be held next month. The Asian Development Bank, together with Green Climate Fund, has supported the complementary development of a regional programmatic approach to climate action, RPACA, led by Cook Islands and Palau. The regional programmatic approach to climate action, it identifies 6 regional priorities for resource mobilization, aligning with the Pacific Climate Finance Access and Mobilization Strategy to ensure timely project proposal development. These priorities include resilient infrastructure, renewable energy, water, waste, food security, and innovative financing. As you can note, water is a priority as part of this new approach. Next slide, please. Pacific Resilience Partnership. The Pacific Resilience Partnership is the umbrella implementation mechanism for the framework for resilience development in the Pacific and was established in 2017. The framework for resilient development in the Pacific is further embedded through the 2050 strategy for the Blue Pacific continent and its implementation plan, which is our long-term collective vision and commitment as a region to ensure the well-being and prosperity of our people, including framing how, as a region, we can work together with partners to achieve the priorities dictated by our member countries. The PRP support unit include the Pacific Island Forum Secretariat PIFS, Pacific Community SPC, and the Secretariat of the Pacific Regional Environment Programs PREP. In 2023, the Pacific Resilience Partnership established a water security technical working group to strengthen multi-sectoral dialogues on water security as both a resilience issue and a resilience solution. The Water Security Technical Working Group is currently working on finalizing the draft water security engagement strategy, and the Pacific Community SPC is leading this work. The strategy focuses on enhancing sectoral engagement, collaboration, coordination, synergies, advocacy, communication, good practices, and partnerships essential to sustaining water security engagement across all levels. So those are some of the initiatives at regional level. I'm happy to take some questions at the end of this session. Thank you. Binaka Vakalevu.
Thank you, Atishma. Thank you for that. Thank you for briefing us with the regional processes and the valuable work that's happening in the regional space, including the technical working group on water security. It gives a good segue to our next speaker, Mary Alalo, from the SPC, to speak on the topic, water security and Pacific resilience. Mary, please.
Thank you, Ala. Greetings from the Pacific community, which is the scientific and technical organization of the Pacific Island countries. It is an honor for me to speak on the water security issues and solutions of the Blue Pacific continent. This is a topic that is very dear to my heart because I come from two of the most vulnerable islands in the Solomon Islands, which is very prone to increasing salination of our freshwater resources. So for me, as a girl who grew up in the islands, struggling to collect water from shallow horizontal fresh groundwater lenses, it's a real experience. And growing up and then going to work and then going back to the islands after 20 years away, and then finding that the groundwater well where we used to extract water from, it's really not drinkable because of it's really filled with salt water. So for me, this topic is very close to my heart. And across the Pacific Islands, we have our low-lying atoll countries like Kiribati, Tuvalu, Tokelau, Republic of Marshall Islands, FSM, which have challenges in terms of accessing surface water because there is no surface water on those countries. So they are heavily reliant on rainwater harvesting, which is prone to extreme dry weather. So when there is a long or prolonged dry periods of rain, then there is a very long periods of water scarcity. And then if we look at the Pacific Island countries, the region of Melanesia, for example, countries like Solomon Islands, Papua New Guinea, Fiji, and New Caledonia, they are prone to heavy rainfall, and which causes a lot of heavy rain. So they often experience too much water. And so when we look at the topic, water security and Pacific resilience, what does it really mean for the Pacific? So with the work that we do with the Pacific community supporting our countries, it is really looking at water security and the critical role it has in Pacific resilience. So let me take us to the next slide where I will provide some information about the state of water security in the Pacific. So I just want to share this slide that shows one of the most remote atolls in the world, which is Christmas Island, which is part of Kiribati. So this atoll is really prone to droughts, and some of the work we do has been really to strengthen the capacity of the local communities to be able to tap into their fragile groundwater resources, and also increase their capacity to strengthen rainwater harvesting. So when we are talking about water security and Pacific resilience, it is really looking at water security, that it is a resilience issue and it should have climate and resilience solutions to it. So next slide, please. And I would like to provide some data in terms of how the Pacific is tracking in terms of Sustainable Development Goal 6 targets. And if we are to look at how the Pacific is progressing in terms of access to basic sanitation facilities, the Pacific has the world's persistently low levels of access to basic sanitation facilities. It is even lower than sub-Saharan Africa. And when we look at sanitation facilities, although there is progress, these progress are often impacted by climate extreme events like tropical cyclones, which brings a lot of disasters, and then it damages or destroys a lot of the gains that we make in terms of sanitation facilities. So often there is progress, but then that progress is impacted when there is a category 4 or 5 cyclone, meaning that we have to restart again. So when we look at water security, including access to sanitation, it is really also about ensuring that when we build back better, ensuring the day's integration of climate change adaptation and disaster risk reduction into the infrastructure we work, starting from the planning, investment, and infrastructures, and accessing climate financing. Next slide. And if we are to look at access to basic drinking water services, the Pacific also has the world's lowest levels of access to at least basic drinking water services. And so this means that thousands of remote rural island communities really don't have the access, including some urban communities. So the need to really scale up climate financing becomes really critical for the Pacific Island countries. Next slide. And then if we look at what are the issues or what the contributing factors that contributes to these low levels of access. So there are many factors. One of these is that the Pacific Island are on the forefront combating extreme climate events like too much water from heavy rain and tropical cyclones which impact our water infrastructures. We have turbidity that affects water utilities, water infrastructures, and even community infrastructures. And then when we look across our low-lying islands and atoll countries, they experience a lot of droughts. And often there would be the infrastructure, but when there's a drought, that infrastructure doesn't have water running. And so there are two extremes in the Pacific. And so it's really ensuring that when we do our investments, it's really integrating climate change adaptation into the investments that we do. And then when we look at other disasters like geohazards, volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, because the Pacific is in the ring of fire, these geohazards also impact on the infrastructures that we have. So water security for the Pacific Island countries is a development issue, it's a climate and disaster issue that requires a holistic approach where all sectors, partners need to come together, engage in meaningful, genuine dialogue so that we are able to really secure the water security of our countries. Next slide, please. So what has the Pacific done to really address what the security challenges we have? What are the solutions that we have taken? So we have really taken a strategic path forward, and one of these is really investing in climate resilient solutions. And so looking at assessing what are the needs of our countries, what are the issues that exist there, and what are the climate resilient solutions, what are innovative solutions that we need to take in partnership with our countries, with our development partners to ensure that the infrastructure that is built there is sustained over time, and also looking at building the capacity of our countries and of our communities so that those infrastructures are maintained, and whenever there is a disaster, we don't go back to zero level, but we are able to move forward to adapt successfully. And then the other is looking at early warning. So looking at how do we manage the risk of too much water. So one of the work that the Pacific community is conducting with our countries and partners is advancing flood early warning in selected Pacific Island countries. But this work will be expanded to include our other countries to ensure that when we talk about flood early warning, it is enhanced across the Pacific. And then the other is developing drought management plans for our atoll countries. So this work is done under the Pacific Atoll Partnership, which is funded by MFAT. And so it's really working with our atoll countries and land-raised countries to ensure that their water security is enhanced and there are drought management plans in place when we are talking about early warning. And the other is strengthening engagement in water security as a key determinant of resilience, which Atisma spoke about earlier. So this work is really ensuring that engagement is not done as an ad hoc activity, but it becomes an integral part of the work that we do. Often, just from my experience, engagement is often done ad hocly. However, with the work that we do, we've learned from the lessons from the past, and we are really ensuring that engagement becomes a critical part of our work so that when we are talking about sustainable, resilient development, it becomes real for the Pacific. With that, thank you. I'm happy to take questions you may have. Thank you, Tomas.
Thank you so much, Mary, for enlightening us with some of the work that are happening on the ground with countries that SPC is carrying out. I now invite our third speaker, Ms. Sete Tamanikayo of the Fiji Development Bank to share with us the bank's experiences as a nationally accredited entity to the Green Climate Fund. Sete, please.
Bulavinaka, thank you, Ala, and acknowledging with deep appreciation the invitation for the Fiji Development Bank to be part of this panel. First of all, the bank was actually accredited as the direct access entity for the Green Climate Fund over 5 years ago, and becoming the first national direct access entity. And since last year, we've got reaccredited pending the review of the GC accreditation framework, as some of you may already know. Therefore, our accreditation journey was really one of a learning by doing. And the bank was nominated by the Fiji government in 2015, and then we got accredited by 2017 to the Green Climate Fund. It has taken the bank about 2 years to actually get accredited with the Green Climate Fund. In fact, we could have taken lesser time to get accredited, given that this was the first time we've actually having had to learn about the requirements and what we needed to be done in terms of being accredited. And we did this on our own. Later, we received some assistance from UNEP and the World Resource Institute. So in having said that, I suppose the key lesson I wanted to share in case organizations, members of the organizations that are listening in would like to be accredited, I think one of the key things is that we need to, if you're going to be considering to be accredited to the Green Climate Fund, commit to investing in a team, a dedicated team that would get your organization actually accredited, as well as then taking it then to the next step of identifying projects, as well as designing and onto implementation at a quicker pace than what the Fiji Development Bank had experienced. And this is something that we've also shared with our sister development banks in the region. Furthermore, the Fiji Development Bank is keen to work in the area of renewable energy space, transport, waste management, adaptation in the field of agriculture, fisheries, and forestry. So in this sense, water becomes one of the cross-cutting issues that we have to consider while designing and ensuring that water management or water resources are managed effectively and efficiently. So for the Fiji Development Bank, we welcome proposals for us to consider and to go to the Green Climate Fund from the business communities, SMEs, or corporate businesses, or even communities that you can consider to submit a concept note for the bank's review and endorsement. Additionally, the Fiji Development Bank is in consultation with organizations such as the Australian Water Partnership, Market Development Facility, the private sectors, in our bid to actually identify opportunities for collaboration that could then lead us to submitting a climate resilient program to the Green Climate Fund. We also rely on these organizations that provide us the technical expertise, say, for instance, the Australian Water Partnership. Partnering with you guys would then provide us with a perspective from the water sector, something that the Fiji Development Bank, technically, we do not have that expertise, but rely on good collaboration from partners like yourself. For potential accredited entities listening in or watching, getting accredited is a positive move to make. However, we would suggest to bear in mind the challenge that we will need solutions that make sense to your organization and to your community and to the country that you belong to. So for the national AEs in the Pacific, firstly, we are challenged by our size and in terms of our capital base and the absorption capacity that hinders our ability to support activities from project identification right to implementation. This is on the back of the fact that, this is on the back of the reporting requirements that the Green Climate Fund would require, particularly if the unit managing the Green Climate portfolio is climate projects or climate mitigation or adaptation projects. And therefore, I would suggest that while earlier I was saying that you need a dedicated team to do this. So additionally, ladies and gentlemen, from our lessons learned and in respect of leveraging private sector financing, the challenge is always on getting buy-in or to get them to actually consider changing or greening their operation. And this largely is due to the fact that the initial cost outlay is huge. And for corporate businesses to be able to invest in environmentally and socially sustainable business operation, they would have to also think about their sustainability in terms of being able to continue to deliver on the services. In some countries, there is no private sector, aside from the fact that private sector are usually highly leveraged, taking on another debt, therefore makes it unfeasible for them to continue to operate. So national accredited entities would have to think outside the box in trying to help the private sector. So from last year, to manage this risk, we've worked with the Fiji government as well the regional government in trying to bring together a regional programmatic approach to climate action called ARPACA, as was referred to earlier, that was held, in where we are able to address the challenges that I spoke about earlier on. So generally, GCF accreditation you will also stand to gain from being an accredited entity. Firstly, you will be contributing to the sustainable development of your country, and there will also be brand recognition, and the opportunity is provided in you having access to expertise and capacity building opportunities. So thank you, Ella. I will stop there.
Thank you so much, Sadeta, for those very practical advice and tips for for senior officials that may be listening in or will be listening to this recording later. I know Solomon Islands and Vanuatu, there are entities within that are going through their own internal processes. Let me now make welcome Ms. Viola Devesi, of Director Women of the Solomon Islands, to speak on her topic, please. Thank you, Viola.
Thank you, Ala. And a very cold good morning from Baku to everyone. I first of all would like to thank the coordinators for this event and for the opportunity to share the experience from the Marovo Lagoon. In fact, experience from my village on this very important platform. If you can go to slide 1, please. So on this slide, essentially is to provide you with a bit of context of where my story is coming from. So my village is located within the Marovo Lagoon that is at the western part of Solomon Islands. You will see the arrow there, which is, Marovo Lagoon is made up of many islands and, some of which are inhabited. And of course, you can find other information about Marovo Lagoon online. If you can go to the next slide. So you will see on this slide, my village, which is the first picture, accesses water through water pump from the mainland, which you can see on the first picture right at the back. It is pumped through pipes that run under the sea, weighted down by, weights, to standpipes located around the island. I apologize that the second picture is not so clear, but it shows how this water system works, especially where the standpipes are and the main pipe running to the mainland, indicated by the red circle. But you will see around the island yellow crosses, which indicates where the standpipes are around the island. I was back in the village earlier this year to find out that the whole village don't have any water through the standpipes, and there's 22 standpipes. As the standpipes and the bases are damaged, and on the slide is a picture of a typical standpipe. The standpipe in front of, our family house, which was built a distance from the sea line years ago. Now the sea has, come up right up to the standpipe, has broken off part of the base, and basically damaged, the whole standpipe. And this is, similar story for most of the standpipes around the island. However, even if the standpipes are fixed, the one main pipe that supplies the water from the mainland to the island, by, as indicated by the red circle, has also a big leak which needs to be fixed, but underwater. What this means for women of my village, and this is on a daily basis, is and depending on the load of the canoe, because you are, the women will be taking their laundry, their cooking utensils, and even their young children in a wooden canoe. They will paddle, for about 2 kilometers one way daily to access water on the mainland that I indicated is the island, the bigger island in the first picture at the back. And on the return trip, the canoe will be even heavier with filled buckets of water to take back to the village for cooking, drinking, and of course for other members of the family. When the weather is not fine, it's raining, it's choppy, the sea is choppy, it becomes even more dangerous for mothers and children. And, of course, there's this means there's health implications, safety, even the safety of young girls traveling to access water is also a concern because they'll be paddling, across to the mainland. While I was in the village earlier this year, I tried to find out how the local government could help fix the water problem of my village. And of course, limited financial resource was the main issue. And so I looked up different funding related to climate change and water and see if I could support my village to apply for it. Unfortunately, I was not able to do that. Upon reflection, at the end of the day, the reality on the ground for rural women and villages is they don't know about any of these funding supports out there for water or climate change related initiatives. Most informations are online. Most of my aunties and sisters only have button phones that does not access internet. And even if they are able to access this water funding, I guess, opportunities, the requirements, the conditions attached to these fundings are not easy for rural communities to meet. The situation of my village has shown me that there are access issues to water, especially for women who are the main users of water. If not given special attention, the already existing inequalities that women face will just be worsened in the face of climate change. The attention, the resourcing for water for specific contexts, such as those on islands, has to be special, has to be unusual in order that we can really address the real life access to water issues on small islands. Accessing clean water and providing simplified access to water resources and funding, especially for rural communities and women in rural communities, is critical for the very simple reason that it is a necessity of life, a human right, and must be made integral to our efforts to advance gender equality. My village experience, and I was, I was there for only 1 week, but for that 1 week, I was also paddling with my aunties, my sisters. So this has been a very real experience for me. My village experience provides, for me, the evidence, that you cannot separate the need for water and resourcing of water, and in particularly for rural islands. You can't separate that with the whole agenda of addressing climate change. Thank you.
Thank you, Viola, for enlightening us with your very passionate experience in your community in Morova Lagoon. As we move on to the question and answer session, we've been working with the panelists throughout to answer questions in the chat box if they can, in the interest of time, which they have been doing. I guess really, if there's any further questions from the audience at this point. Viola, I believe there's a question here for you that's yet to be answered. What is the per capita potable water allowance? I'm not sure, Viola, if that's something that you can answer right now, but
sorry, Ala, that sounds very technical. I probably wouldn't know.
Yes, it does.
The answer.
Then look at some of the questions that we have with the panelists. Atishma, if I may refer to you first, you spoke on strategies, frameworks, and working groups and programs at the regional level. There's a lot of valuable work going on at the regional coordination space. Can I ask how all these processes translate to access to climate finance for water resilience at country level? Or maybe how can countries and communities access climate finance for water security through these regional efforts? Atishma, please.
Thank you, Ala. Those regional frameworks and programs which I have mentioned, so it's not only provides a coordinated approach for mobilizing resources, but it also enhances the capacity of Pacific Island countries and these communities to secure finance which they need for these water security issues. And some of the ways it can translate is by helping countries access and mobilize climate finance through international sources, mostly through these multilateral climate funds such as GCF, JEF, and adaptation funds. So it also acts like a bridge between global funding mechanisms and national governments. So more like supporting countries in preparing and submitting high quality funding proposals. And this work is normally done through building capacity. Some countries often use these frameworks and their corresponding operational arrangements for technical assistance to basically improve their ability to design and manage projects that focuses on water security. It also strengthens the project pipeline. Countries can also use this mechanism to prepare robust project proposals for water security initiatives, such as building sustainable water infrastructure, enhancing water resource management. And some of these initiatives Mary has also highlighted in her presentation, and also more like providing direct support to national designated authorities or focal points to engage with donors and climate finance institutions. And Seteta was quite clear in responding in terms of what they have been working with GCF on this. Thank you, Ala.
Thanks, Atishma. In the interest of time, do we have any final words from any of the panels? Any final message from any of the panelists? While I quickly look through our question and answer chat box.
Yeah, if I may, I just wanted to share that we are right now working on a project with to go to the Green Climate Fund, which is the Climate Smart Agriculture Guarantee Facility, where we're trying to support businesses or communities to actually use climate resilient technology in terms of farming in their farms, or if they're going fishing. So one of the technology that we've identified is solar operated water pumps. So we also could finance water harvesting technology, or salt water desalination technology. So this is something that we're working on, and we hope to be able to reach as many businesses in Fiji, or farmers and fishers, to come on and actually utilize this guarantee that we are hoping to get from the Green Climate Fund. So I thought I'd just share that with the panel and those that are listening. Vinaka.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Seteta. I take this time to thank our panel of Pacific Women in Water for taking your time to share your valuable knowledge with us, and I wish you well in your work going forward, particularly for Seteta and Viola, who are part of the COP29 delegation for Fiji and the Solomon Islands, joining us today all the way from Baku. I now take this time to introduce the next speaker, Catherine from Monash University, a nature-based solutions expert, and who will be summarizing this panel session for us this afternoon. Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you, Ala, and thank you to all the speakers for a really interesting and engaging session. So I'll just summarize some of the key messages. So we heard that climate finance is vital for Pacific resilience. Although the Pacific contributes little to global emissions, it faces some of the severest climate impacts. So finance is crucial. And as we've seen in the presentations from Atishma and Mary, climate finance for water security in the Pacific is recognized as a challenge, and access is being addressed through various regional processes to support the countries across the Pacific. Another key message is that water security is a climate and development priority. So it's important to leverage climate finance to address interconnected climate and water challenges. And this should be developed using a holistic approach, which supports broader development goals. So when investing in water infrastructure, this can also help with health, livelihoods, and equity. A key challenge is to ensure finance is directed towards the most vulnerable and in need of water security. So we heard from Sateta that the first step at a national level has been the experience from the Fiji Development Bank's accreditation process for the Global Climate Fund. But ultimately, finance access needs to reach the local level, especially those most vulnerable, as shared by Vela. We cannot separate the need for water with the whole climate agenda. And then finally, financing for the Pacific needs to be tailored. So regional strategy and advocacy ensures water security remains a priority in climate finance. So it's really critical to design funding mechanisms that consider the unique challenges of rural and remote Pacific Island communities. So we've seen this in this session that finance is a key driver to address the water and climate challenge. And the next session, which I'm facilitating, focuses on urban water resilience in the Mekong region. And we'll look at how policy and legislation is also a driver to create the enabling environment to encourage some of the investments that we heard about. So thank you very much. And I look forward to you joining me in the next session.